Yes, of course. Yeah. Just your thoughts on the sentencing and basically your next plans? You just mentioned in the press conference right here.
Well, the sentencing aspect, I am, of course, disappointed with. We were hoping for a much better sentence, but the way forward now is doing everything we can to reduce that, to get a sentence that is more in line with what justice would require.
So you mentioned also the coverage of it, several journalists doing awesome work and getting the story out there. Do you see the story coming out now, especially after the sentencing period where more people know about his case?
I hope so. I hope people look at this outcome and they say to themselves, this is not the right outcome. And people start to educate themselves on what he was charged with and really the lack of damage in this case and the fact that this is information that shouldn't have been classified to begin with. We've had some very hard working journalists that kept this case alive. I'm hoping that that will continue. And that's why I have no problem answering any questions from journalists, because without you, this message would get lost.
You also mentioned the trend with war and whistleblowers. You mentioned Edward Snowden's case and stuff like that. You know, the Obama administration prosecuting so many whistleblowers. Do you see more of that trend continuing, or more people starting to realize that they're criminalizing people who are speaking out against war crimes, as Bradley Manning was?
I see, unfortunately, the trend continuing. And the reason why is the people who know the information, for whatever reason, once you become part of that circle, you all of a sudden think that other people shouldn't know it. And what you fail to remember in that is that the people you're not including in that circle is the American public. And oftentimes, those are the people who need to know it the most. So unfortunately, I see this trend continuing, because when you are a whistleblower, you go outside of the system by its very definition. And that is usually responded to in a very negative way.
You mentioned Manning's statement also to President Obama, your next step in next week. Tell people about that.
Yeah, well, you know, what I'm going to do is file the pardon request. It'll go through the Secretary of the Army for the President. And I'm hoping that we can get some interest with that. I know that there is an initiative to get, through White House Gov, to get them to respond to this request. And from my perspective, if the President ever wants to go golfing to talk about it, I'll be happy to go with him and hopefully convince him that's the right thing to do.
Please publicize this. I mean, the mainstream establishment press only shows up on the big days. They show up on the verdict, on the sentence day, on the first day of the trial, but they're not there for the year and a half, the 2 years of the hearings that actually make a difference. That
plane that supposedly had Snowden on it. We're seeing an incredible effort by the powerful countries in the world, particularly the UK and the US, to try and stop the leaks that are whistleblowing in the best sense of that word.